Lee, we're back for another episode of High Dive, and as the United States and the world seem to be, I don't know, is imploding the right word? It's very
Yeah,
distressing, some of the news that's coming out.
it's sadly predictable. I mean, it's sadly predictable. But here's the thing: I'm not sad about it being sadly predictable because I I don't feel insane right now. I feel perfectly sane. Like as bad as things are, I feel like I've been talking about how QAnon is a trap, it's a setup. I've been saying all this stuff that they were saying was going to happen wasn't going to happen. I've had people on my Twitter feed for 2 months now saying, no, no, Trump's going to be inaugurated. It's absolutely going to happen. I've been like, it won't be. And furthermore, I've been saying to them, I'll bet you $100, and nobody's taking me up on that. And the only people I ask to do that are the people who are just like, no, he's going to do it absolutely. And I'm like, well, okay, let's put your money where your mouth is. And so I would feel more screwed up if I'd been pushing this junk
Right.
and not trying to warn people about it. So there's stuff going on, like with my friend Andrii Telizhenko, that is horrible, but also I'm shocked by it, but I'm not totally surprised by it. And we'll talk about that in a second. The people who, I'll tell you what it is. The people who I've been saying are the bad guys for are, yes. And they've proven it. And this Andrii Telizhenko thing is horrible because he's a friend of mine. He's a personal friend of mine now. I got to know him through this story, but I came to love and admire him because he's one of the bravest people I know. And he has been absolutely screwed by the US government and the Trump administration, not Donald Trump himself. We'll go over it. Not Donald Trump, but Mnuchin and Pompeo, the two people I've been pointing out. Mnuchin's a former Soros business partner. Pompeo headed the CIA and did nothing good there. He didn't release anything. He didn't anything else. And I've said these guys are bad guys. And I'll talk about why Rudy Giuliani's a bad guy, why Chuck Ross over at the Daily Caller is a very bad guy. And that Chuck Ross is, I mean,
Well, let me slow you down a second because I think there's a lot of people who aren't even aware. There's been so much stuff going on with the inauguration coming up and Trump going to Texas. Andrii Telizhenko was a legitimate whistleblower. He's working in the Ukrainian embassy, or give us the story of who he is and how he came about and what's happening to him now.
okay, this is a big deal, and I'm just going to tell people focus on this because I've been talking about it for about 4 years now,
Yeah.
and I've talked to you about it many times, and I'm going to tell people again how to find this article. Focus on this story. This tells you what's really happening, and it's a lot of the other stuff that you're being distracted by are distractions. That's what they are. They're designed to trick and fool you. So, uh, a little less than 4 years ago, exactly. Well, let me put it this way. Let's go to the story first. Exactly 4 years ago to the day, Politico wrote a piece called "Did Ukraine Attempt to Sabotage Trump Campaign Backfire?" Something like that. If you type in Ukraine attempt backfire sabotage Trump, you'll find it. And it's on Politico and it's written by a guy named Ken Vogel. Now, this article here is what everybody needs to read to understand why it's so frightening what your country did, what the United States of America did
Our
yesterday.
country. Yeah.
So, yeah. So mine too. I'm not just saying.
Yeah.
So this article, if you read it, is a very well reported article that points out the DNC was collaborating with the government of Ukraine to interfere in the 2016 election. Now, when I say it's a well reported article, sometimes you don't get the people involved to go on the record. In fact, a lot of citizen journalism is people writing about stuff and they've never talked to the people. They're conjecturing based on stuff they've read online. Me, I don't do that. So I read this article, and it outlined how a DNC operative named Alexander Chalupa went to the Ukrainian embassy and said to a guy named Andrii Telizhenko, who worked there, who was a diplomat. Andrei was a diplomat, and I'll talk about how he got there. And she said, I want you to not work with the Trump campaign, and I want you to collaborate with the Clinton campaign to look up dirt on Paul Manafort and Donald Trump. Now, she did this in March, April of 2016. And I've got more data on that, but let's just talk about what the Politico article talks about. So the reporter, Ken Vogel, who I called when I read this story, and I said, Ken, do you stand by this story? He said, yes, I do. So he stood by it. You'll notice it's not retracted. Politico might take it down at some point. So everybody really should grab the article and read it now because of what happened yesterday to Andrei. So Andrei was a diplomat. He's a loyal Ukrainian. He, because I work for Radio Sputnik, has never been on my show because he doesn't like Russia.
Wow.
And that's important. Keep that in mind.
So he refused to come on the show because he dislikes Russia that much?
Yes. And when I reported about him, I said he's a loyal Ukrainian who, because he during the Maidan in the revolution in 2013 and 2014, he was one of the people out on Maidan Square. He was part of something called the Auto Maidan, which is where they had cars. But when shooting started, he had friends die in his arms with their brains splattered on him. And
let's help people understand that, Lee, because this was not some war. This was very similar to what was going on, in a sense, to what was going on in Washington, D.C. last week. It was a bunch of people who were there to protest.
Yes, that is exactly right. That is exactly right. And that's what I've been seeing since I first started. When I saw the Women's March, that's when I moved to Washington, D.C., because I'm like, okay, it's on. This is happening. So,
Color Revolution.
If you read that article, Andrei says this happened, and so does the woman who talked to him, Alexandra Chalupa, Ali Chalupa. Now, is it conjecture that Ali Chalupa was working with Ukrainians to work against Trump? No, it's not. And one of the reasons we know it's not conjecture, if you type in WikiLeaks, Ali, like Muhammad Ali, that's her short for Alexandra, Ali Chalupa, like the delicious Taco Bell treat. If you type that in, you will find the email that she sent, and this was listed in that Politico article. This is the email, which she not only does not deny writing, but she's talked about it in a podcast that her sister does called Gaslit Nation.
Oh, yeah,
so,
right.
Here's the story. What was the interference in the 2016 election? You're looking at it. It was the Ukrainian government working with the DNC, and they were concocting the story that became Russiagate. They were literally concocting it. Now, I have new material that I just got in the past week that I've been talking about this story for close to 4 years now. I found this years ago, and as soon as I did, I ran down the story. I eventually got Andrei to talk to me. He did an interview with me, and I went over his background, I went over his history, and for about 2 years, nobody else was talking about Ukraine and the DNC collusion. Nobody else. And I had nailed this story. I talked to the place that she mentions in there, the Open World Leadership Center, Soros funded. I talked to the person who runs it. They confirmed it. I talked to Michael Isikoff, the reporter she was working with. He confirmed it. I interviewed other people. 100%, this is a confirmed story. Yet nobody was picking up on it, including my former source, Breitbart News. And I felt very frustrated because I could see that this story solves the mystery of Russiagate. It's a big key to it. It was an operation set up prior to any supposed hacking, months before, and I have new evidence on that. And I could see it was being buried and not being covered. Furthermore, I wrote to Steve Bannon and I told him about this article that came out 4 years ago to this day, and Bannon was ignoring me. Now I know why. Because this story, which would have kept Trump from being impeached, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Breitbart, for instance, had put its muscle behind it, what I mean by that is their readership.
Yeah.
The only guy who went so Andrei, after about a year, started talking to me, and he and his family. This is why I say I respect and love him. He and his family had to flee Ukraine. They literally had to flee for their lives because Poroshenko, and by the way, Biden was right in the middle of this. When Biden read that article, that political article, he went to Ukraine and he talked to Poroshenko and he threw the article down. He said, "What the fuck is this?" And then Petro Poroshenko called Andrei into his office. And I know this because I've seen Petro Poroshenko's phone number and everything else. There's not a question Andrei was a diplomat. There's not a question that he was called on the carpet by Poroshenko. There's not a question that Chalupa met with him. It's all there. There's no conjecture here. All there. And I noticed that what was happening was a zillion other stories, all bullshit, were being pushed by people like Bannon, like Cernovich, people who work with him, like Cernovich, like Posobiec, and they were not giving any air to this, none. Eventually, I got Jack Posobiec to talk to Andrei, who has now thrown him under the bus, because what happened yesterday was Andrii Telizhenko, and if you look this up, just look up his name, look up Andrii Telizhenko sanctions, you will find story after story. Yesterday, the U.S. State Department and the Treasury Department sanctioned Andrei.
Personally
Sanctioned him. And
what does that mean exactly? Have they done that to many people? It's like Gaddafi.
He can't come into the country, which means he can't testify. I mean, he could do it on Zoom or whatever. They've frozen money, okay? And they're doing it to discredit him. And they said he's part of a Russian disinformation campaign. And if you read that, they don't name one thing he said that's wrong. Now, Andrei was in the country about 6 months ago. He was talking to Rudy Giuliani. He was talking to people like Ron Johnson. And he was being smeared by people like Ron Wyden, the senator from Oregon, Democrat, who said he's an agent of Russian disinformation. He doesn't like Russia at all in any way. It's a point of contention between he and I sometimes, although think about this. Think about how frustrating it must be for him that the only person telling the truth on this works for Sputnik. It's made him nuts. Rudy
But not only that, they're saying he's a Russian agent. It's like, people need to realize Russia and Ukraine are two separate countries. I mean, this is like saying you're a Canadian or a Mexican or a Chinese something.
So why are they doing that? To discredit it. And what they're saying is that Russia interfered in the election against Biden. So Mnuchin and Pompeo are trying to stop Russian interference against Biden. Ooh. That's what they're trying to stop. And nobody seems to understand this. Nobody seems to get this. And now that and as I've been trying to tell this story, people have been reading Q droppings and saying there's a plan and saying droppings. Q was specifically saying trust Kansas. That's Pompeo. They were specifically telling you to trust Pompeo. Q was an operation designed to keep people passive, stupid, and looking in the wrong direction. And
may I just add one thing, Lee? I think it was designed to identify people who are into collectivism, blind following, not able to think for themselves, just to identify the most gullible people that could be targeted at an event like what we saw last Wednesday.
Yes, that's exactly right. But it's also perpetuated, keeping them stupid, because the whole method of Q is absurd. The whole idea that if some people don't like anonymous sources, I understand why you get. As a journalist, I've had to use anonymous sources because people are afraid. Let's say they're a
Yes.
whistleblower. They don't want to come out and say this. But you know what? As a journalist, but I've never said, I have a source and, oh, let me give you clues to show you that the source is real. I know who the source is. And when I've worked with editors, I said, here's who my source is. And they knew. So, so now that we're at the end game, there are still people I know to this day, right now, who are still like, no, 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 there's going to be military trip. Matt Couch, a lying,
Social engineer.
idiot, social engineer, absolutely, who specifically I've been telling people he's lying to you. This morning he was going, oh, here it comes, military tribunals are coming, Trump and blah, blah, blah. No. And I said to him on Twitter, hey, Matt, put your money where your fat mouth is, bet $1,000. And of course, what these people do, and I'll talk about Chuck Ross in the next segment. I talked about my radio show today. Chuck Ross and the Daily Caller's in on it. John Solomon's in on it.
But are they in on it or are they fooled? It's because a lot of people...
No, they're in on it, period. And I have absolute proof that they are in on it, Jason. Wow. And you know me, when I tell you I have in my possession articles that lay out the story that were killed by well-known and respected journalists, and I will reveal that soon. And the only reason I'm not now is because I've been asked not to right now. But that day is going to come very soon. And I'll say that again. I have the actual article that they killed for no reason.
Breitbart?
I'm not going to say who it is yet.
Oh.
But it's somebody, you'll see, it's not a Matt Couch. It's somebody who everyone goes, no, I trust they're good, blah, blah. No, they're not. And I have literally the article that they had written about this that they killed and refused to publish. So there's no question. These are not people who don't know the truth. They absolutely know the truth and are hiding it. And again, that's not me guessing, well, there might be. I have the evidence in my possession. And Jason, I would send it to you just so at least you go, well, yeah, I've sent it to other people. I sent it to my editor. I've sent it to a few journalists around the world who I know and trust. But the person has asked me, keep this quiet for right now. And I'm respecting them and trying to talk them into going, I have to put this out. Right. Because it ends any debate about what people knew. Furthermore, senators like Chuck Grassley absolutely knew, and I have all that proof too. And they're specifically lying about it. There's no possibility these people were tricked. And when you see the evidence that I've seen, there's no possibility that people were tricked. And these are people at the highest level. This is Mnuchin, Pompeo, Chuck Grassley, major media figures, people like Jack Posobiec. Bannon, I have the emails where I was trying to warn Bannon about this. He wasn't ignoring it because he doesn't trust me as a reporter. He knew I was onto something. And when people ask why, the reason is that this corruption, and I've been saying this for a while too, the anti-Russia stuff, the anti-Putin stuff, has nothing to do with human rights, has nothing to do with Pussy Riot, has nothing to do with any of that. It's about peoples at the highest level of government, Feinstein and Grassley, lying so the U.S. can steal the resources of Russia that became available after the fall of the Soviet Union. And that's, and so one of the reasons again, Andrei is now once again in hiding. I don't know where he is.
Wow.
They pulled his visa 6 months ago in September.
He was living in Washington, D.C., wasn't he? I mean, you were interviewing him in hotels and
He was
stuff around
coming
D.C.
in
a
and
few
out of
years
Russia.
ago.
Yeah, I've never been to Ukraine. I've never been to
Right.
Russia. So he was coming into D.C. He can't even come into the country now. He can't go
Wow.
into Canada.
Wow.
He was raised in Canada.
Wow.
He can't go into Canada. And Canada told him, we pulled your visa because the U.S. told us to pull your visa.
Wow.
And this guy is a truth teller. So uh, uh, to me, he's at a level of heroism with Julian Assange,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making him suffer for it. He is paying the price, not quite as bad as Assange is yet, but they're trying to do it. And everybody who cares about the truth should care about this. And here's the other thing I can tell you. He was never allowed to talk to President Trump. I'll say that again. He was never allowed to talk to President Trump by Rudy Giuliani or any of the people close to him. I believe 100% if Trump knew what was going on, if he knew the truth, if he hadn't been misdirected from the truth, that everything we've seen in the past 3 years, the impeachment, the Russiagate investigation, this could have been shut down 3 years ago.
But
But
why
they
would
had to.
Giuliani do that? Giuliani's been putting on a show for everybody. I mean, he's been hanging out with Andrei for a while.
So this is the here's the thing. This is always what people do in this. And it's a common question, and I understand it.
We don't know
But
why.
but let me just say this. If you see me shooting somebody,
Right.
you could go, well, why is Lee shooting him? Why would he do that? Like if people came in, I'm shooting Jason,
You don't
right?
know why, but you could say he did it.
Right. And they first go, oh, wait, Lee and Jason like each other. They've known each other a long time. And what? That's okay to ask that. And I'll tell you the answer. But what happens is there is a reason.
Yeah.
And it's because Rudy Giuliani, as we pointed out before, is a complete shill, who I pointed out the MEK,
Right.
the 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 People's Mujahideen. Rudy does stuff for money, and Rudy is scared right now. Rudy is desperately scared because he knows they're targeting him. Furthermore, I'll tell you this. See, the problem is I can't get inside Rudy's heart. So what I know is with people like Chuck Ross or some of these other people, or Matt Couch, as I mentioned before, is a really low level, or Dan Bongino, I don't know what motivates them. Is it money? Is it power? Is it blackmail? Is it ideology? I don't know. There's a lot
Can't
of
get
things it
another
could
job.
be, but I can tell you it could be, but I can tell you for sure that's the way they're acting. And no one can deny that. So as soon as people go, no, wait a second. Why would Rudy do that? That's a valid question to ask, but it's only a valid question. The first question is, did he do it? Did Rudy Giuliani have this information and keep it from President Trump? And the answer is yes. Rudy Giuliani was in a position to introduce Andrii Telizhenko, who was testifying to the Senate, to Trump. Andrei wanted it, and Rudy never did it, ever. And Rudy knows that Andrei's telling the truth. So why didn't he do that? Why? Maybe he thought it would. Whatever. I know the FBI has been asking Andrei about me, and I know that the same way Roger Stone told me the FBI was asking about me. And
Really?
again, absolutely, yes. So this isn't academic. This isn't academic. I 100% believe if I wasn't working for Sputnik and allowed to tell as much truth as I can, even now when I'm holding back a little bit, but I've given it to other journalists, I've given it to other people, I'm not hiding anything. Uh, uh, that therefore, by the grace of God, go I. They would love to indict me or whatever. But the danger of them doing that is it puts light on me. And I've been out there talking so much for so long that I think if something happened to me like that, a lot of people would go, wait a second. Lee was saying, and then they'd go over all the material that's proven. Like I say, there's not a single point in any of this that anything I've said that I can't point to and go, yep, here it is. And even the stuff I'm not showing you, when I'm able to bring it out in the next few weeks, you'll have no doubt about it whatsoever. And if
Now,
I
let me
said,
pause you a second, Lee, because we've got a
yeah,
lot to discuss on this, but we are out
yes,
of time right now with this YouTube lead-in segment, and I put a tweet about this out yesterday, but Twitter's kind of a mess, so I haven't been on there today. The social engineers continue to try to destroy Crowdsource the Truth, and the main Jason Goodman channel has been disabled once again. So people are going to be able to see the sponsor-exclusive segment of High Dive coming up right now on patreon.com/Stranahan, subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm not exaggerating when I say they're trying to destroy this. What happened last night, I don't want to go into too many details. I'm trying to unwind it, but there's no live streaming on the main channel. So you're going to want to join us on Patreon and Subscribestar. We're going to carry on with the in-depth conversation about Andrii Telizhenko, Ukraine Gate, Rudy Giuliani, and all of this stuff with Lee Stranahan in just 3 minutes. So join us over there. We'll see everybody. Thanks for tuning in.